Tonight, fear enveloping postal workers across the country.
I just got held up. He has the truck keys.
Caught on camera, neighborhood mail carriers targeted by robbers, many, like this one near Boston, held up at gunpoint. Near Houston, a mailman forced to put his hands in the air when a thief charged at him with a weapon. In Milwaukee, postal employee Andre Cross shot to death on his route, investigators believe, over a package. And the crime wave perhaps worst in Chicago. Police there issuing an alert after a string of postal worker robberies, more than 24 since the beginning of the year.
Mail carriers are very frightened, more so than ever, because of the ongoing armed robberies. We've never seen anything like this before.
The Postal Service wouldn't immediately provide data, but acknowledging to NBC News, over the past several years, its employees and the mail have increasingly been marks for criminals.
Many of the thieves trying to get their hands on so-called arrow keys, which unlock centralized community mailboxes. Others simply prying mailboxes open with the goal of committing identity theft.
They're looking for checks, they're looking for credit cards.
In Atlanta, 232 attacks from January 2019 to this past July. And in Orlando, at least 6 attacks in the last 6 months.
You know, watching that video made me ask myself, how did we get here? I mean, how did we go from revering a mailman to robbing a mailman? I mean, I get it. Times are hard. The dollar doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Inflation is high, wages are low. I get it. Because see, at one point you were able to spend $100 at the grocery store and walk out with bags upon bags of groceries in your basket. Not now. Now you take that same $100, go to that same grocery store, and walk out of the store with about 4 or 5 bags in your hands. And that's with using coupons. So I get it. Times are hard. Financially, times are hard for most of us. But to rob, beat up, and in some cases unalive a person who's working 8 to 10 hours a day, and they are still 2 to 3 checks away from living in a poorhouse, it's crazy as hell. But it wasn't always this bad. You see, there was a time when the mailman was sort of a celebrity in the neighborhood. Hell, he was even more popular than Santa Claus at one time, at least among adults anyway. Because even he came bearing gifts and bills. But even those bills were a blessing in disguise. Those bills meant you had a place to stay, a roof over your head. However, usually, people were more happy to see the mailman for the gifts that he would bring, like letters from their loved ones, retirement checks, income tax checks, and those faithful 1st and 15th checks. That's right, those welfare checks. Whether it was rain, sleet, or snow, the mail was getting delivered. And no matter what neighborhood he worked in, he had safe passage. Didn't nobody mess with the postman? Now, they may have gotten a little upset with him for being late delivering their checks, but that was about it. Back in the day, after marching up and down the blocks delivering mail, the mailman would take a break and sit on the porch and chit-chat with some of the neighborhood residents. It was like he was a part of the neighborhood he served, and the neighborhood treated him as such. I can recall my grandmother seeing the mailman coming up the block hauling that heavy bag of mail on his shoulder, and it had to be at least 85 to 90 degrees outside that day. I witnessed my grandmother go in the house and pour a tall glass of cold water and give it to the mailman as he walked up our stairs to hand her the mail. I can tell that brother was thankful because he was sweating bricks. Hell, we were all sweating bricks that day, but that gesture was common back then. It was normal for the mailman to be treated with dignity and respect, to be appreciated. And yes, during the holiday season, they did receive gifts from some of the residents. Wasn't nobody trying to rob, beat up, or unalive them back then. Not the mailman, but there were some incidents that occurred back then, but it wasn't as common as you see today. But today, we're dealing with a whole different beast, a heartless one. Today, the mail carriers are disrespected, devalued, and unappreciated. They are treated worse than the dogs that chase them up and down the block. You can tell their lives are devalued by watching these videos. And as you see an uptick in violence against our mail carriers, How do you see this playing out? Would the government assign each mail carrier security detail? Or will carriers be allowed to carry? But anyway, this was just a thought. Until next time, keep your head on the swivel. And family, do you believe attack on mail carriers will decline?
Or are these just the signs of the times?
I'm Tone Wrong, and I'm out this camp.